Pay attention. The fun starts right now. All right. So what we're going to be doing today is hopefully we're going to be going basic akdama of the structure of how Shulchan Aruch developed. We're not going to spend that much time on it because hopefully a lot of it is already in your head by osmosis. You already figured that out by just being in yeshiva, hopefully for a number of years. And then we're going to tell you what's going on in this book and what you're responsible to know. Is this understood? Good. All right. So we're going to begin. We have something called the Chumash, the Bible, the Torah, Hashem's Torah Shebiksav, together with Torah Shebal Peh. The only way to know what you have to do is you must have Torah Shebal Peh. How do we know this Torah Shebal Peh, by the way? So simple pshat is, because the Torah Shebiksav is very ambiguous, it's not clear. Kshartum lo yisal yedecha. What do you put on your hand? What is the toughest ben enecha? What do you put on your head? It doesn't say, lo katuf. But there are clear indications from the Torah Shebiksav as well, that there is a Torah Shebal Peh, like we just learned in Rashi and Parshas Re'eh, Also, and it says clearly, you should v'zavachta kasher tzivisicha. You should shecht like I commanded you. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah how to shecht. Is that right? That the Eibishter commanded Moshe Rabbeinu many mitzvahs that Rashi writes in the Fedish, and there's many other ayahs from Torah Shebiksav itself, the Torah Shebal Peh. B'seider gamur. So Torah Shebal Peh, how did you know what to do? You basically paid attention to your father, and your father went to yeshiva, paid attention to his Rosh Yeshiva, and the Rosh Yeshiva paid his Rosh Yeshiva, and it was in Besoida, all the way down to Rabbeinu HaKadosh. When Rabbeinu HaKadosh, as the Rambam writes, saw that people were forgetting, so he decided to write down the Mishnah. From the Mishnah developed into the Gemara, etc., etc., etc. That's how we have Torah Shebal Peh. So basically, at the end of the day, if you want to know what you're supposed to do, and what happens if a mistake is made, the basic thing is you have to be a Baki B'Shas at the end of the day. You have to learn Kol HaTorah Kula. You have to learn the whole Gemara, Bavli Yerushalmi, Sifra, Sifri, Mechilta, all the Midrashim, all the halachas, and then you could sort of also know the Kloli HaPoskim V'Hayirot, to know who the Paskin like, Machlekes between this guy and that guy, you have to know who the Paskin like, and then you suddenly know what to do. I mean, that's a very, very difficult task, and probably a majority of Klal Yisrael or a bunch of Amaratzim. I mean, I would imagine, okay? I mean, those that sat and learned, whatever. Came along, really, one of the first, and decided that this is way, way, way too complicated. Actually, let's go back a minute. One of the people that decided to fix this problem was the Rif. Came along the Rif, Rabbi Yitzchak Alfasi, and he realized that it's way too complicating to expect every single year to know the whole Shas with everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Shas and condense it. I'm going to take out all the Agadah and the Shak Levatari that a Gemara may have, and I'm going to bring the basic Machloikesin that exist, the Mishnah and the Gemara, and I'll tell you who I hold like, because what I hold like is correct, of course, says the Rif. And if I'll tell you what the Paskin. Not only that, says the Rif, sometimes certain sugyas are brought in a different Masechta. So when you're learning Masechta Shabbos, I'll bring the same sugya that's Negeya from the other Masechta. A lot of times you'll see in the Rif, Garsino be Masechta Psachim. Why is he bringing it here? Because it's Negeya, because the Shas is so. Basically, if you want to know Kol HaTorah Kula, instead of learning the whole Gemara, Bavli Yerushalmi, just learn the Rif. And the Rambam Taka writes to his son that in order to know halacha, you have to learn the Gemara with the Alphas. You have to learn the Rif. The Rif basically condensed it and decided and tells us what you have to do. Beautiful. Again, it's pretty difficult because you have to go through the whole Shas, right? And learn it all with the Rif, who also brings Machloikis in. It's not clear, and what if we don't hold like the Rif? It's still complicating to go ahead and learn the whole Gemara based on the Rif. Okay? So came the Rambam, this revolutionary in this field, and decided, I'm going to make a book based on categories. No one ever did that. I mean, the Gemara is pretty much that. Shabbos, Brachos, right? Psachim. It's based on different halachas, but it's still a mixture of Kol HaTorah Kula. The Rambam says, I'm going to stick to it. Hilchas Shabbos is Hilchas Shabbos, Hilchas Brachos is Hilchas Brachos, and Hilchas this is Hilchas this. And therefore, I'm going to rewrite the whole book, in a very simple, condensed, categorized way with simonim and halachas to make it very easy for us to know what to do and what not to do. That's exactly what the Rambam did. He was the first person that came along and basically made indexes to be easily to find whatever you need and whatever you want. Okay, beautiful. That would be great if that would be the end of it. The problem is, it's a beautiful book. Not everybody agrees with the Rambam's final halacha. It doesn't work that way. It's Akdama to Shulchan Aruch. Starting Shulchan Aruch today. The Rambam, not everyone agrees with the Rambam's final halacha. Okay, so came along other Poskim who, also disagreed and brought a lot of more shittas. For example, the Rosh, what did the Rosh do? The Rosh wrote a Pirush on the Gemara, but it's based on the Rif style. That's what it is. It's analyzing all the halachas of the Gemara based on what the Rif brought. It's basically with the Seder of the Rif. And the Rif is not Meirich. A few places he is Kashas and Terutzim. But the Rosh, pretty much that's what he does. It's like a Tosfos, but only the sugyas that are negel halacha, not necessarily pshat in the Gemara. The Rosh doesn't befalpol pshat in the Gemara like Tosfos does, where it's negel halacha. You have a lot of the Rosh. So you have a lot of many other Rishonim that now argue with the Rambam. So what happened now? The Rambam just became another person to the pile of shittas and poskim that I need to know, right? I need to learn the whole Gemara. I need to learn the Rif. I need to learn the Rambam too. I need to learn the Rosh. I need to learn, what do we do here? This is getting crazy. I mean, if you want to know what I mean, mitzvah Talmud Torah is one thing. Yeshiva Bachar is one thing, but you want to know what to do. Ma'is Asher Yasun, what to do, what not to do. Remember, half a Shulchan Aruch is for idiots. Half a Shulchan Aruch is what if you forgot. That's what happened. What if you made a mistake? Remember, it's not about what you're supposed to do. It's about what you did wrong. Okay. So came along, the next big revolutionary is the Tur. Rabbeinu Yankiv Balaturim. He wrote a sefer, and he decided, first of all, I'm going to cut out all the halachas that are not negeh today. I'm only going to bring a book about the halachas that are negeh today, and I'm going to split it into 4 parts. That's why it's called Turim, different columns. Okay, this thing is different shittas. What's the Torah Shlishi? What's the Torah Revi? It's generally known Erechaim Yeredeya Evan Ezra Cheshem Mishpat. Some of them will call Cheshem Mishpat HaTorah Shlishi. Believe it or not, I don't know why. Okay, so he made 4. What are these 4 categories? They're different in Yonim. Erechaim is everything you're supposed to do between Shabbos, Brachas, Yom Tov, everything. Erechaim. Then you have Yeredeya is Isser V'Heter. Okay, like we're learning now Yeredeya. Then you have Evan Ezra is Hilchas Noshim, not Hilchas Nida. Hilchas Nida is an Isser V'Heter. Gittin, Kiddushin, Agunis, Ksubis, all those halachas. Then you have Cheshem Mishpat, which is one of the hardest halachas. It's all about Dinei Mominus, the halachas of Dinei Mominus. What did he do? He took the Rambam's Mahalach, basically splitting it up based on Inyonim categories. So he took Hilchas this and Hilchas that, and he made different Simonim. Okay, and then he wrote. What did he do? He decided, after you have the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh, and you have all the other Rishonim, the Rashba, the Ritva, whoever else you came across so far until now, until your yeshiva years, what he did was, he took them all and took their psak halacha, made cases that the Gemara may or may not bring. Some of them the Gemara brings, some of them the Rishonim bring, and he tells you who holds what, and in many cases he tells you what the halacha is like. That's what the Torah did. Okay? So he took Hilchas Basa B'Chalav and started to quote different dinim, different halachas that exist in Hilchas Basa B'Chalav, Hilchas Shabbos, different dinim. And he says, he brings names, Kosav Rambam, Kosav Tosfos, Kosav Ari, Kosav this, Kosav Rashba, and he brings you. So basically now if you want to get the next level of what the Rambam did, but not only the Rambam's opinion, which is not necessarily always accepted by Klal Yisrael, learn the Torah, you got everything. Torah's got everything, wherever he decides to bring. Beautiful. So now Gishmak. For Nitzvah Talmud Torah, I'll learn Gemara. But if I want to know what to do, what do I have to learn? Torah. The Rambam's not going to cut it, unless you're a Sfardi that only goes B'shittas Rambam. Otherwise, you learn the Torah. And there are Yidden Takar that sit and learn Torah the whole day. And if you learn Torah the whole day, you'll know basically, according to what it says here, you'll know what to do. Okay, so far so good. Halavai, that would be the end, right? Problem. Comes the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Cairo, who lived in Tzfas, who he was mechaber 3 major svarim that we all know about. One is the Beis Yosef on the Torah, which we'll show you soon who that is. Number 2 is the Shulchan Aruch. And number 3, he also wrote the Kesef Mishnah Pirush and the Rambam. All right. Came to Beis Yosef and he starts reading the Torah and he's like, first of all, there's no sources. Where did Torah get all this from? Kosav Rambam. Where? Case from the Gemara. Where's this Gemara? Where's this Tosfos? Where's this Rashba? Like, what are you talking about? So I'm going to write a sefer, he says, Pasha, to give the sources of where the Torah got his halachas from. Where did it shine him that the Torah is quoting, where they write it. I have to hear where they wrote it. I don't know. So you wrote a sefer explaining exactly where they got it from. Plus, he says, I don't know, Rabbi Tur, you made a few mistakes, in my opinion. Not only you made stam mistakes, you made mistakes in your own father. Who's the father of the Tur? The Rosh. Tur quotes always his father. Now sometimes, how does the Tur know what the Rosh said? Because he told me so, He told that they had a conversation. In most cases, it's not because they had a conversation, it's because he saw the Rosh's publication, just like the Beis Yosef saw the Rosh's publication. Now, is the Beis Yosef allowed to argue with the Tur on what the Pshat in a Rosh is? Yeah. Of course. Why not? They're both learning a sefer, and they both can argue with each other. So the Beis Yosef doesn't always even agree with the Tur about what the opinion of the Rosh is. He also doesn't necessarily agree with the Halacha L'Poyel. He also feels that there are later Svarim after the Torah. The Torah is sort of borderline between the Shoinim and Achronim, right? He says, there are more Svarim that bring Inu and Yonim. So I'm going to write a sefer. It's called Beis Yosef. Okay? Beis Yosef. Basically, the source of the Beis Yosef's inyan is, number one, to bring the sources. Take a look at any Beis Yosef. The first thing is going to bring you where the Torah got it from. And then he's going to ask Kashas, bring Biyurim, etc., etc. By the way, the Bach, who was he was the Rav in Kroke, his name was Rabbi Yoel Sirkish. He saw the Beis Yosef as great job, but no, I don't like a lot of things you wrote, so I'm going to make a new house. He called it Bayis Chodosh. That's why he called it the Bach. You made Beis Yosef. I'm going to make a Bayis Chodosh. I'll make a new house. And he wrote a different pirush, which is basically mainly to argue with the Beis Yosef. But he wrote his sefer on the Tur, really as a counter to the Beis Yosef. So every single Tur, in most publications, have on one side Beis Yosef, on one side the Bach. We'll see what we have to learn. We're just going through this part. Once the Beis Yosef finished his sefer, he like sort of freaked out. Oh my God, what did I just do to Klal Yisrael? I just added another book for them. You got to learn now the Torah plus my sefer, right? Also, what if you want to know bottom line? My sefer is not bottom line only. There's a lot of background in my sefer. I tell you where the Svarim come from, where they come. I tell you all that stuff, right? So therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber, the Beis Yosef, he decided, I have an eitzah. I'm going to rewrite the dinim of the Torah. That's all he's doing, the dinim of the Torah, the halachas, with my opinion, with all the other guys that I brought or where I disagreed with the Torah. I'm going to rewrite the book of the Torah. I'm going to do exactly what the Torah did. The Torah wrote Hilchas this, I'm going to write Hilchas this. The Torah wrote Siman this, I'm going to write Siman this. But I'm going to rewrite the book, right, to be able to express what my shitta is, what I think Klal Yisrael should do. Hence, he made a book called the Shulchan Aruch. That's what he did. Okay, made the Shulchan Aruch. It's basically the Torah without the names of the Poskim and basically bringing what the halach is. He doesn't bring. Rarely does the Mechaber bring two shittas. He does sometimes, and rarely does he mention them by name. He also does sometimes, but usually he just brings the case and he just brings the halacha. That's what the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber, did. Okay. Now he also wrote a sefer on the Rambam, Kesef Mishnah, which is a lot of times it's mamish word for word from what he wrote on the Torah. A lot of times, word for word. Okay. Beautiful. So now you got to the Shulchan Aruch. You'd think that it's over, right? Now we have a Shulchan Aruch and we're good to go. Came the Ramah, Rabbeinu Moshe Israelish, who was a Rav in Kroke also, before the Bach, and he wanted to make a sefer like the Beis Yosef on the Torah. And then he saw that the Beis Yosef made it. He said, great. Took away, I don't have to spend time writing all the sources because I think he got it for the most part right. Problem number one, he missed out some of the Ashkenazish Poskim. The Ramah says, the Ramah, Beis Yosef brings the Sfaradish Poskim mainly. I have a lot of other Poskim that he didn't bring and I think that they're right. So I'm going to add notes to the Beis Yosef and to the Torah just to add in my 2 cents. And he wrote a sefer on the Torah called Darkei Moshe. His name was Moshe. He wrote a sefer Darkei Moshe. Actually, what's published in Shulchan Aruch in the Torah, Darkei Moshe, is a condensed version of a Darkei Moshe. The publisher took certain pieces out. Really, there's a sefer called Darkei Moshe Aruch, which in these new Shulchan Aruchs they have it, where he has a lot more. But basically what he did was, he basically was mashlim what he felt the Beis Yosef missed out, right? Now that the Beis Yosef made a new book called Shulchan Aruch, what did the Ramah have to do? You have to make the mappa, the tablecloth of the Shulchan Aruch to tell everybody to hold the fed and hold your horses. Don't paskin as a shnel wie the Mechaber paskins the Shulchan Aruch, right? What you're going to have to do is now read my book. Whatever I wrote in Darkei Moshe, he took those same minyanim and added them in what's known as a hagoh, a footnote. So every sif where he decided to argue in the Mechaber, he made a ha'ara. And the new prince and the old prince, they put it in Rashi Oisis. You should know what's the Ramah and what's the Mechaber. So now you have a full-blown sefer called the Shulchan Aruch, which is made up, published today, of the Mechaber and the Ramah. Now, by the way, there are many other Yidden that made Shulchan Aruchs as well. The one that became Niskabel B'Tfutzas Yisrael completely is the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber. But every other Shulchan Aruch is always going to follow the Torah's setup. Okay, so for example, if you want to know what siman is bishul b'Shabbos, it's going to be siman shin yud ches in the Torah, in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Levush, in the Mishnah Berurah, in the Aruch HaShulchan, in the Alter Rebbe. It's always going to be, they all follow the same siman, except for one guy rewrote the Shulchan Aruch because the kids of Shulchan Aruch. Shlomo Gantz read, he cut out 3/4 of the whole Shulchan Aruch b'chalal. He took all the halachas and put them into one siman, like the whole Basa B'chalav is one siman, and he only took the ones that he felt are negeya for, if something happens, call it off, but you have to know what to do every single day. And he wrote the whole book and only gave the whole thing, but everything in one book. So he rewrote the whole book. But everybody else, we'll discuss who these people are soon, they follow all the siman. Now, you might think that you're finished too, right? Came many other achronim later, and they said, whoa, not the Mechaber got it always right, not the Ramah got it always right, there's more people that we need. Hence, all the little black words around the page. Okay, and it's never ending, and it has never ended yet. Hence, the libraries make a lot of money. People publish svarim, and they write more Torah and more achronim. And every time somebody else brings a new svarah, somebody also has another sefer to shlog it up, etc., etc. You understand? Now, just to give you some insight, Stam Maimar Amuzger, you have the Kesef Mishnah, for example, on the Rambam. You have the Bes Yosef on the Tur. Just to Stam my own observation. If you want to write a sefer on any Rishon, correct? Yeah, and you want people to read what you write, yeah, pick a Rishon that nobody wrote a sefer on yet, because technically speaking, whatever you want to write, you can write it on any Rishon. Because what's a sefer on a Rishon? He wrote, but I have a problem. The other Rishon argues. So how are we going to answer? It must be he holds like this and he holds like this. Oh, once he holds like this, he holds like this. I think the halacha would be kach v'kach. So on which one of those two Rishonim could you actually write the sefer? Either. Right? You pick each one and bring the other guy, right? Write on the other guy and bring the other guy. You write on any one of the 10 Rishonim that you quote, correct? Basically, any sefer that someone writes on a Rishon, yeah, you could write it any Rishon. I think the kunz is, pick a Rishon that nobody has a sefer on. Therefore, for example, the Minchas Chinuch is very famous, right? Why is he famous? Bottom line, he's a big goin. But whatever he wrote on the Chinuch, Minchas Chinuch, he could have written on the Rambam too, because half the Minchas Chinuch is quoting the Rambam. Why the Chinuch argues with the Rambam? But the Rambam, you know how many Sfarim written on the Rambam? Hundreds, right? Minchas Chinuch, not many. He's the guy. Or you have many Rishonim about it. Ri Perlo wrote a sefer on the Rasag, at Psad Yigoy. He's the guy, right? The Kesef Mishnah is on the Rambam. He did it years ago. He's the guy on the Rambam. The Netziv wrote a sefer on the Shiltis called Hamek Shaila, right? So he's the guy. Whatever he's writing on the Shiltis is one of the goyim, right? Yeah. So whatever you're gonna write, you can write any goy. Whatever. So I'm telling you. That's why you'll find that the Beis Yosef and the Kesef Mishnah are many times identical mamish. He writes the same thing on the Torah where he brings the halacha, and it's word for word what he writes on the Rambam, because it actually could be written. I'm not saying chas v'sholom that they did it, but dafke, they chose, I guess, a rishon, where they can actually make their marks. Stam says, you can pick your sefer, you can pick on any sefer that doesn't have many rishon, many befarshim, that's what you should pick, huh? Whatever, that's what it is, it's kashis and terutzim, etc., etc. Okay, this is the basic structure. The basic structure.
So what's the difference between the Beis Yosef and the Mechaber? The Mechaber goes into more detail?
No, less. The Beis Yosef is where he goes into a lot of detail. He brings the sources and he brings the shittis. The Mechaber is the bottom line. The bottom line. This is what happened. This is the halacha. Without any. Now, sometimes actually he was choizer from what he wrote in Beis Yosef. In Beis Yosef, sometimes he passed in one way, and you'll see in Shulchan Aruch that he passes different. He's allowed to. Okay. Now, just Maimar Amuzgir. While we're on the subject of Beis Yosef, he rechecked the sefer and he saw problems, things that had to be added, fixed. So he wrote another little addendum, a sefer called Bedda Kabayis. What does Bedda Kabayis mean? Fixing. And the publishers inserted it in all the places. So when it says Beis A in the Beis Yosef, that's Bedda Kabayis from the Beis Yosef. There's another Bedda Kabayis, as we'll see soon, okay? The Beis Yosef's Bedda Kabayis. Where's Malamed? I always forget to bring it. I want to tell you the Sabayis.
This one has in the back.
It has the Bedda Kabayis also?
Yeah.
And the Shmera Sabayis? Oh, beautiful. This one. I'm a chayish. What is this? This is a new thing with the Lavush. Give out. Okay, fine. Say it again. I can use this for now. I'll give it back to you soon. All right. This is the basic Mesoida and how we're continuing. So what I'm going to do before we open the Sefer is, I'm going to now introduce you to new people that we never came across in most cases, or never really met in our years in yeshiva, unless you did other Torah learning and other research learning. That's going to be very, very important what we learn here today, okay? The regular guys, Rashi, Tosfos, the Rif, the Rosh, the Ran, the Rashba, the Ritva, whatever's in the Kovetz Mefarshim, That whole book, if you ever paid attention in school, yeah? So you came across these guys. But now we're gonna introduce you to some new people or new svarim that they wrote that you never came across in most cases. First and foremost, the guy that's extremely, extremely relevant when it comes to Yeridea is the Rashba. Now we already know the Rashba. We met him in his Chidushei Rashba, right? Which is not the Rashba of Tosfos. I once had the misfortune of asking a stira from the Rashba and Tosfos to the Chidushei Rashba in Shiur, and my Rosh Yeshiva washed the floors with me. That I'm an Amoritz Gomer. Because one is Reb Shlomo ben Aderes, That's the Rashba, and the one in Tosfos of Shimshon ben Avram. That's a different people. Chachmei this, Chachmei that. They're different countries. Okay, but the Rashba, the one that we know from the Chidushei Rashba. So mainly we know of him from two different Sfarim that we're most well aware of. Is the Chidushei Rashba and the Gemara, and Shilas Tshuvas Rashba. Everyone knows Tshuvas Rashba, Shilas Tshuvas. He wrote many Shilas Tshuvas. But there's another Chibur, another book that he wrote, which is called Teiras Habayis. Okay, he wrote a sefer called Teiras Habayis. Make sure you pay attention. I don't doubt that most of what I'm telling you, you're going to forget. Okay, those who are writing might remember. Those who are not writing will forget. Okay, I might make you feel stupid when you come over to me and say, "Well, I said it in Shiur, but I forgot." Okay, but I still might make you feel stupid. But you'll get there. There's no question. The same way I got there. Okay, no one gave me the Shiur. I just figured it out. Milmata l'mayla. So the same way I figured it out, with a little bit of l'mayla, after me telling you, together with the milmata l'mayla, you'll figure it out. Okay, so you wrote a sefer called Teiras Habayis. He basically, instead of making simonim and prakim, he made batim, sha'orim, okay, his houses and doors and gates, however he called it, of different inyanim in halacha. He called Teiras Habayis. He wrote two books, Teiras Habayis Aruch and Teiras Habayis HaKotzer. Aruch is bariches, HaKotzer is short version. Okay, why did he do that? If you have no time to read the whole Ariches, you read the Kotzer. The other Mefarshim also did that as well. They did Ariches and Bekitzer. Okay, now, and he split it up, and he writes whatever his opinion is on the other day. He split it up into Inyonim. Hechsher ha'oichlim ve'isurim. Bayis shlishi. Let's see. They only brought here the bottom there, and they gave for Basar B'cholov. So they write Teiras Habayis by shlishi. Now, whenever you quote the Teiras Habayis, you have to refer to which book, Ha'aruch or HaKotzer. So actually, we're a little spoiled with the new Shulchan Aruch. In the old Shulchan Aruch, a lot of these people were written out in Rosh Tevis. You had no idea what they're talking about. The new ones, mainly Basar B'cholov, they wrote them out. But when you're going to learn Taruvis, apparently they made Taruvis first, you're going to be thrown off completely because suddenly it's the old version of Rosh Tevis. So I used to say, Tov Hei Kuf is Teiras Habayis HaKotzer. Tov Hei Aleph is Teiras Habayis Aruch. In this book, it's going to be written out. All right. So you should know, Teiras Habayis, you have to reference. Whenever the Tur, by the way, quotes the Teiras Habayis, he always means the Kotzer. He didn't have the Aruch. Tur didn't have the Aruch. He didn't have access to it. It was not in his library. That's why a lot of times they're able to argue with the Tur. You think you understood the Rashba correctly. From the Kotzer, it sounds like what you're saying. But in reality, if you go learn the Teiras Habayis Aruch, right, you'll see that the Rashba didn't mean that. Okay, fine. Once the Teiras Habayis was published, he had a chaver. His name was Rabbeinu Aaron HaLevi, also known as the Ra'ah. Some believe that he wrote the Chinuch. The Chinuch, we don't know who wrote the Chinuch. Right in the beginning of Basar B'cholov, the first or second shach, he writes, V'kosav hara'ah b'sefer HaChinuch. I think there's an Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch also refers to the Ra'ah as the Mechaber b'sefer HaChinuch. L'poyel, it's debunked. L'poyel, it's pretty much proven that it was not the Ra'ah. It doesn't work out in the year. So a different edition wrote the Chinuch. But the Ra'ah definitely was Rabbeinu Aaron HaLevi. He saw the Rashba and he freaked out. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. I'm going to write a book that's going to attack him. You made a bias? He gave it the same name that B'Sir Yosef used later. Bedek HaBayis. He called it Bedek HaBayis. So if you want to know, usually when the Ra'ah is referred to, Kosav Ra'ah beBedek HaBayis. He doesn't like it. All right, so he wrote a sefer to argue. I mean, that's the Derech of Klal Yisrael. You right, I argue, right? The Rashba saw it. Apparently, he freaked out. I'll show you how I know. Apparently he freaked out. He said, no, this is not good. I got to defend myself. But I want to defend myself in a very, very strong way. So what's he going to do? What, are you going to write himself a sefer to defend himself? He wrote a book as if it's a Talmud of him. But really he was writing. So because it's a Talmud, you could write very sharp. I'm defending my Rebbe, right? And he called it Mishmeres Habayis. What's Mishmeres Habayis? Protecting my house. I wrote the house. You thought you're fixing it, Rabbeinu Hara'ah. I'm going to protect my house. He wrote a sefer Mishmeres Habayis. And because he wrote it as if it was like a Talmud writing it, he writes, I'm going to open to any page and I will show you, almost any page, stuff that he writes. Okay. Agaf, how do we know it was Taka der Ashba, not a Talmud? Because in the Chuvas, he slipped one or two places and he writes, he slipped, he writes that it was himself. In fact, the Shach writes, so I never knew this, by the way, there's a Shach at the end of Taruvis that says, you want to say that there's another Rishon that agrees to the Rashba, the Mishmeres Habayis, he was a Talmud, he must have been a big Rishon. Says the Shach, he doesn't count. Haloi Noida, it's the same guy. He's not another guy, it's the same guy. It's the Rashba who writes. So, I open to a page here. Let's see. Just start. Oit Kosav. Ze Vadai Shibush. Baba Maisis. I mean, Mamish, you'll. open to any like an introduction. Omar HaKoisev. Koisev means the Mishmeres Habayis, the Rashba himself. Dvorim Eilu, these words that the Ra'ah wrote, B'chizoyin Laila Nemru Boi. He was dreaming when he wrote it. Omar HaKoisev. Apparently the Ra'ah wrote that you should think better before you write. So he writes back. Maskim Mo Yisi, Shaloi La'ageyas, he writes, there's no business even answering, I'm so right. So the Rashba answers back. Am Maskim Shaloi La'ageyas Atzmi L'hoshev Al Zeh. Really, I shouldn't waste my time and my effort answering you. They're baby, immature things that he writes. Anyone who will see me not responding will think that I agree, so I'll answer. Really, I shouldn't, because, listen, you can open any page. Omar HaKoisev, Einoi elo min hamatmiim b'chol hashemea yitzchak loi. Omar HaKoisev, Daito Klishto Yeshkan. It's very weak. Mashkoma Shekosav Kan Dibre Shibush Gomor. Makes no sense. HaKoisev Korile Anhoris Einin Min Shmaya V'Shema Lekinoi Omri K'Dekarinu La'avira Sagin Lehoira. You made a mistake. Let's try somewhere else just to show you that you don't even have to. I don't even know where I look from every year when I give this shir. I open up anywhere. Mamish, I can open up anywhere to the Mishmeres Habayis. You got to have a page with Mishmeres Habayis. Not every page has where it starts.
He was also Rishon, right?
Yeah, sure. Here, let's start another one. Where does it start? Anad Omar HaKoisev. Omar HaKoisev. Hitricheni lichtiv kol dvarav. Yipreshiyesh bepratem kama shibushim. You matriach me to now repeat what you write. Shlung you up. I have no time for that. Umi bli leiv choylik al gedolei Yisrael. Without thinking, you're just arguing because you could. Omar HaKoisev. Herich bedvarim she'ein lohem shachar. Upirish pirish me'urvir v'dover me'vulvul ein lohem tam ki'ikir. Tam be'ikir. I guess he's talking about the Sugya. Basically, every time he opens any Sugya, he basically finds it necessary to. Mibli leiv koisev u'makshe. V'zeni musoi. That's his derech. You give it a shus to your pen to write whatever you want. That really you're making no sense. That's how that is. It's actually pretty gishmak. Not everybody agrees to the Rashba when he argues on he gets some support from the Poskim. Anyways,
did anyone write a paper back to on the Mishmeres?
All the Achronim, whatever, they're busy, of course. I mean,
They have the same idea of...
No, he writes. He's a Rishon. We give the biggest dedicatus to the Rashba.
So what happens to the Jushain and shortage of ink and stuff like that? Like writing everything because they didn't have that problem?
Apparently not. The Rashba wrote a tremendous amount. You see the Rashba writes a tremendous amount. Anyways, so this is a major sefer that's brought here. Teres Habayis referring to Ha'orach and Ha'kotzer. Together with that goes the Ra'ah. Rarely, on some rare occasions, the Mishmeres Habayis actually writes to the Ra'ah. You misunderstood what it says in Teres Habayis, and you're right. Sometimes the Shach will quote it. Ubir, hu atzmoi, b'Mishmeres Habayis. Actually, Taka, you were right. Taka made a mistake. You misunderstood what the Rashba wrote, meaning me, what I wrote, and I'm going to acknowledge that I wasn't clear enough, and you got it right. But in most cases, it's like Mamish World War Zero at that time, whatever. World War Okay, so that's a major issue. Another major sefer, they're all going to come to mind because I don't have this like published in my head. Another major sefer that we're going to come across is the Sha'arei Dura. He wrote a sefer called Rabbeinu Yitzchok Midura from the Chach Medura. That's a place somewhere. Whoever can do research can find out where that is. Or a region in Italy or somewhere, I don't know. And he wrote a sefer, the Sha'arei Dura, also a Rishon, and he also brings a lot of different shittas and different poskim. So when he says in the old Shulchan Aruch Shindala, it doesn't mean a shade, chas v'sholem, a demon. It means the Sha'arei Dura, the gates of Dura. Anyways, he also wrote Prokim and Sha'arim, etc., etc. The Sha'arei Dura. Another major posik is the Marshal. Okay, where do we have the Marshal? Most of his Poskim, most of us in Yeshiva come across the Marshal like the Marshal on the back of the Gemara, where under the Mashah, you have the Marshal. He wrote a sefer called Chochmas Shloimeh, right? But that's just Hagoy's notes on the Gemara. His real sefer is called Yam Shel Shloimeh. It goes by Prokim and Simonim. It doesn't go on the Daf. Interesting. You open it up, you want to know where the Yam Shel Shloimeh is. Perek, we're learning Babakama, Perek, Arbovis, the Zikin, and through the whole Perek, he just goes by Simonim. That's the sefer of the Yam Shel Shloimeh. He also wrote a sefer called Iser V'Heter. Iser V'Heter. There's another guy who wrote Iser V'Heter. So how do we know when we refer to the Mashals? So it says Shaloi. Kosav Mashal, but Yisr V'heter Shaloi. In his Yisr V'heter, as opposed to the other guy Yisr V'heter, which we'll get to soon. It's really Hagoyis on the Shari Dura, and it's called Mechoinois. That's really where it comes from. That's the Sefer Yisr V'heter. Halachas and Yisr V'heter. That's where you bring the Mashal. Another Sefer that I just mentioned now that's very, very relevant and broad is the Sefer Yisr V'heter. It's written by someone called Rabbeinu Yoina Migirundi, not the Rabbeinu Yoina, the famous, the Mechaber of the Sefer Rabbeinu Bechaye. He lived many years later, lived after the Tur. He quotes the Tur. He calls him by the name of his Sefer. Kosav HaYoredei. Who's that? It's the Tur. He's the guy who wrote the book. Later, we also call everything Yeredei, whatever, anyone. But he wrote a Sefer called Yisr V'heter. The Tur didn't have him, obviously, because he was written afterwards. But he is the source for a lot of halachas and a lot of problems, issues, is the Sefer Yisr V'heter. There's many other Rishonim we're going to come across. Rabbeinu Peretz, for example.
The other one?
Rabbeinu Yoina, Yisr V'heter. There's Rabbeinu Peretz. There's the Balo Itur. This time you're going to come across a lot of names. For example, no. Rabbeinu Yeruchim. Rabbeinu Yeruchim is another major player here, and his sefer was split into nesivim, paths. Everybody was unique, prakim, houses, gates. So the nesiv, the path of Bosa B'cholam, is actually nesiv tesvov. So in the old Shulchan Aruch it would say v'kosav ru Rabbeinu Yeruchim bantu. It's not his name. It's b'nesiv tesvov. Okay, kosav Rabbeinu Yeruchim bantu. In the new ones, it's printed out. Okay, but in Taruvis you might find bantu, bantal, votaz, whatever. It means he wrote nesivim. There's another sefer called the Trumas Hadeshen. The Baal Trumas Hadeshen. He's a major sefer. Anyone who knows anything about the Alter Rebbe's Shittin, Mechiras Chometz, it's the Yisoid about it is based on the Trumas Hadeshen.
The Trumas that never happened?
Correct. The Trumas Hadeshen, his name was Rabbeinu Yisrael Iserlin. Okay? It's a sefer Shilas Utshuvas. We're Medayik in the Shilas, just like we're Medayik in the Tshuvas. Why? Because he never happened. He wrote the Shilas. I heard a Shiur once from Rabbi Beryl Wein, Zecher Tzadik V'Kodesh Livrocha L'Chayei Ha'Olam Haba. Just passed away. We want to give him the proper dercheretz and covet. He claims there's a shach that says somewhere in Choshen Mishpat that you can't rely on a Trumas Hadeshen because since he never asked the Shaila, so it wasn't the Gale of Poil, so you can't rely on his tshuva. I have yet to find such a shach. I doubt it. I doubt that it says so. But anyways, maybe there's such a shach. But l'maisa fakert, we use the Trumas Hadeshen. Shaila, usually you just look at the tshuva. By the Trumas Hadeshen, we look at the Shaila as well. Not to get confused with Teres Habayis, because Taf Hey, you might think, oh my gosh, it's Teres Habayis. How do you know if it's Trumas Hadeshen or Teres Habayis? Number one, if it's Teres Habayis, it has to be referenced with a kuf or an aleph, kotzer or orach. Also, it's simonim. Teres Habayis, Trumas Hadeshen is going to have a simon. Okay? He also wrote Hagoes on the Shari Dura. The same guy, the Maharai, Aleph Yud, the Yisrael Israelin, flipped the Aleph and the Yud. He's the Baal Trumas Hadeshen. He also wrote notes on the Shari Dura. Just like you have on the Rosh, you have notes on the Rosh, right? Hagoes Oshri, right? You also have notes in the Shari Dura. Hello? You returning my call? Go ahead. Okay, I'll call you back. I'm middle Shiur. I'll call you back later. It's no problem. Bye. The Hagoes, so sometimes it's quoted. It's quoted like a Kosav Marai, where Bahagoes Shari Dura. It's Hagoes and Shari Dura. Okay. So what do we cover? Marai. What's about the Shaloi? Now the Levush. Who's the Levush? What was his name? The Mordechai Yafe. That was his name. The Taz met him. Taz quotes him, says, I expressed my opinion to the Mordechai Yafe, and he was masking. He writes it. At least one place for sure. I remember. He was very unhappy with the Machaber. He was very unhappy. He felt this is a travesty of halacha for a number of reasons. Number one, he doesn't write the reasons. He just writes dry halachas. The Rambam himself writes, by the way, that I regret that I didn't write the sources to my halachas because he was asked once, what's the mukkah? And he says, there is a mukkah. I don't remember now what my mukkah was. And he regrets the Bishas. He wrote the Rambam. He didn't write the sources. So the Levush, Mordechai had a lot of tinus in the Machaber that he didn't write the reasons. And also he didn't like a lot of things that he wrote. So he wrote another sefer, Shulchan Aruch. He rewrote a Shulchan Aruch, and he called it the Levushim, and he based it on the pasuk Mordechai Yotza Bevush Malchus Tcheles. Each chelik has another name. Levush Ha'oira, everything. So the Levush that's on Yeredeya is Ateres Zohov. Ateres Zohov, not Taz. The Taz will say V'kosav Ho Ateres Zohov. He means the Levush. He calls him by the name of the book. He doesn't mean, and the Shach will say, no, maybe the Shach writes Ater Azov. He doesn't mean the Taz, he means the Levush. Remember, one of them writes Levush, one of them writes Ater Azov. That's the Levush. And he rewrote the Shulchan Aruch, and the Alter Rebbe actually, when he wrote a lot of the reasons, the Alter Rebbe is halachas b'taimehen, the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch writes the reasons, a lot of it is taken from the Levush. He didn't stand the test of time. The Mechaber stood the test of time. He became the Posek of Shulchan Aruch, obviously not Mamish, because we can argue, the Poskim argue with the Mechaber, but the Levush did it. But the Levush is definitely used. Okay? The Levush. As we go, I'm going to come up with more people and more that we forgot. Huh?
You didn't go for the Taz.
I didn't get to the pages of the Shulchan Aruch yet. These are all not in the pages of the Shulchan Aruch yet. Exactly. There is other people that wrote Shulchan Aruch. The Aruch HaShulchan wrote a Shulchan Aruch. Okay? He was a Mesnagdish Poisik. And his style is actually, he smuggled in his Chidush HaTorah. That's what he did. He's amazing. He takes every Siman of Shulchan Aruch and he goes with the sources of the Gemara and he argues and he brings Svaras, Gevaldike, back and forth. If you want to get real background of what's going on, read the Aruch HaShulchan, the Siman. It's very good. They don't always paskin like him. Mishnah Berurah is just notes on the regular Shulchan Aruch. And then you have the Alter Rebbe rewrote the Shulchan Aruch, but also the same Simonim, the same thing. Rewrote it, incorporating everybody. It's mainly Erechaim of the Magen Avraham and the Farshim on the sides of the Shulchan Aruch. Then you have another sefer called the Pri Chodosh. Pri Chodosh was a Svadish Poisik. And on the side of the Pri Chodosh, Shulchan Aruch, you have the Pri Chodosh and you have the Pri Toyar. Who wrote the Pri Toyar? The Erechaim HaKodesh. The Erechaim HaKodesh also wrote a sefer called Pri Toyar. That's what it's called. It's quoted in other Svarim that we're going to come across soon. All right. We have enough now to start looking at the book, okay? We're going to look at the book. I'm going to tell you who's who and what's what. And then we're going to see what's going on. So let's all open up to a random page of Shulchan Aruch. Siman Pei Zayin. Tur, the beginning. Your Shulchan Aruch is made up of two parts. First half is the Tur and the Beis Yosef, and the second half is the Shulchan Aruch. So it's two books in one. You used to have to buy two sets. You still do. But for the Yeshiva Bachim, they made it into two. You got to go back to the beginning. The beginning. You're not looking at the right place. Page Memches. Let's start. All right, so in the middle, who's in the middle? That's the Tur. Tur, Yisra Basar, V'chol is the Tur. On the left is the Beis Yosef. Okay? For example, just take a look at the last Beis Yosef on the page. Beis V'Gimel, Gedi, whatever. First Beis Yosef, Mishnah Shami, he's bringing the sources. That's what he does. Okay? On the right side is Bayis Chodosh, is the Bach. You see the Bach? Where he argues it a bit. Okay. Under that is the Darkei Moshe that I quoted. Who's Darkei Moshe? Anyone can remember who wrote it? The Rama. Under that is two Sforim called Prisha and Drisha. It's the same guy. One is Prisha Meloshin Pirush. One is Drisha Meloshin Drush, also known as Pilpul. Okay, who wrote it? The same guy that wrote a major mefarish on Choshen Mishpat, published in Choshen Mishpat, called the Smeh. Sefer Meidos Einayim. He's a mefarish on Choshen Mishpat. His name was Reb Valch Katz. He wrote the Sefer Prisha und Drisha. In Sefer Meidos Einayim, the Smeh, he always refers to himself. I am Asher Kasafti be Prisha. I am Asher Kasafti be Drisha. Okay, that's the Prisha, the same guy. Then under that is Chidusha Agois. No idea who wrote that. It's like just basic notes that you have in any like new sefer. And Hagoyes ve'oris, also new notes that you have in a sefer. Now I'm going to show you something very, very weird. Go look at the Tur. What's the first letter of the Tur? Anyone can see? What's the first letter? Aleph. What does Aleph mean? Sif Aleph, right? Okay, beautiful. Continue on, move along to the next few lines. What's the next letter? After the Aleph, what's there? Beis, Sif Beis, right? Move on a little further. On the third line of the page, on page Memtes, what do you have? Gimel. Turn the page. What do you have? Hey, what? He doesn't know how to count. How do we know the order of the Aleph Beis? How do we know the order of that? Maybe he's right. Huh?
Well, that's what it says. What do you mean?
That's what it says.
What's
What's that? How do I'm asking you? How do you know the order of the Aleph Beis? From where it was? Seres Dibris is the order of the Aleph Beis. Has all the Aleph, the order. Piyutim were made later. Tanakh. There are many prokim in Tanakh which are used in Aleph Beis. Eicha, the whole Eicha is Aleph Beis. Ashrei is Aleph Beis. There's a whole bunch of Kapitlach Tilim and prokim in Tanakh that go with Aleph Beis. Yeah.
Okay, but who says that to say there may be a difference?
Okay.
Oh.
Guf does not go with say that. Yeah. Also, sure. Every letter in the Aleph Beis has 8 psukim. Correct. It's called Tmanya Api. Yes. And Achrami. Sorry. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. That's how we know. Okay. So the Tur for sure knew that Dalet goes before A, right? So the real answer is the Tur never wrote Seifim. That's a bogus, it's a mistake. These publishers decided that whatever the Mechaber wrote this din, this is where you're going to find it in the Tur. You know what you're going to see in the Tur? You can see weirder. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Yud, Hey, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud, Gimel. Because if you want to know the Yud Gimel part in the Tur is actually Sif Yud Gimel in the Shulchan Aruch. So the reason why there's no Daled is because what the Mechaber writes in Sif Daled is not brought in the Tur. It comes from the Beis Yosef. Take a look on page Mem Tes. In the Beis Yosef, there's a Daled. Kosav Arashba B'Tshuva. That is Sif Daled in the Shulchan Aruch. So if you ever want to know where to reference, where is this din brought in Shulchan Aruch, you look at the numbers. Okay, could be in Cheshem Mishpat, there are some sifim, but generally there's no sifim. So that's where the sifim are. That's why it jumps around and misses also letters. Understood? Okay. Now let me find the page where it has Bedek Habayis. Let's see. You look at page Nun, at the bottom of the Beis Yosef. Also, the last of the thin lines, the second thin lines. You see the Ben Yeruchim Bantu. You see it says the first lines, the Ben Yeruchim Bantu, right before the widest lines, the last line, the first word's the line. You see it says the Ben Yeruchim Bantu, that's Benesif Tesvav. Anyways, look at the bottom, all the way at the end, it says Bedek Habayis. This is the Beis Yosef's own notes on his Sefer Beis Yosef. He adds, V'chein Kosav Harav HaMagid. Who's the Rav HaMagid, by the way? Not the Mezritcher Magid. In Lubavitch, Harav HaMagid is the Mezritcher Magid. But in Alocha, it's the Magid Mishnah. Like, what does Pei Beis stand for? A city. What's Pei Beis stand for? A city? What'd you say? Pressburg. Very good. You have the Levush, so it's Pressburg. You look like a Lubavitcher, so it's Peterburg. In Lubavitch, Pei Beis is Peterburg. And by the Welt, everywhere else, Pei Beis is Pressburg, where the Chassam Sefer came from. Very good. Excellent. I never had a Bocher say Pressburg. They all say Peterburg, okay? Because it depends. It depends where you come from. So, Harav HaMagid, it depends in what context we're learning. Now, by the way, just the Maimon was good. If the Beis Yosef writes Rabbeinu, who does he refer to?
Who?
Rabbeinu. Who's Rabbeinu?
Who writes it?
Beis Yosef. You're asking me, you're telling me. Okay, so I heard your question. Anyone else have? Okay. As a rule, whenever there's a mefaydish on a sefer, Rabbeinu is always going to mean that sefer. There's no Rabbeinu. So if the Beis Yosef writes Rabbeinu, it's the Tur. When the Kesef Mishnah writes Rabbeinu, it's the Rambam. When David Feldman writes Rabbeinu in Ha'oris under the Shemis, who is it? The Rebbe. That's how he writes. If he makes a Ha'orah under the Shemis, he writes. Rabbeinu, it's always, that's the rule. Okay, Rabbeinu is always the guy that you're writing about. There's no one Rabbeinu. Although in Gemara there's Berebi, which can mean Rav, it can mean different Poskim, great guys. But that's what it refers to, all right?
Who is the Maggid Mishnah?
I don't think even we know. It's a Pirush of the Rambam. Harav HaMagid is the Maggid Mishnah. I don't know if we know who actually wrote it. Now, if you take a look between the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch, if you open up, you have the Darkei Moshe HaAruch, which I mentioned to you before, which they found, I guess, and there you have the Forshim on it. Oirach Misha, I don't even know who these people are. Nothing in between the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. Now let's open to a page in Shulchan Aruch. This is going to get it. Sure. Open up the page, Siman Pei Zayin. That's where we're going to do Pei Zayin. I want page Ayin base. Actually, we'll start with page Ayin, because we're going to have to use different pages. All right. Hilchos Basar B'Cholov Siman Pei Zayin. It's the same thing as the Tur. The big words in the middle is the Mechaber. At the end it says, in parentheses, I don't know why this is in parentheses, that's how the Ramah wrote it. Kol Basar B'Cholov, you see that Loshin? Who's that? That's a Hago. Who's that from? That's the Ramah. After that it says like this, Tur, yeah, V'Oruch Klal Lamed. Who wrote that? Not the Ramah. The publishers decided to tell you where the Ramah stole his information from, okay? So where's he stealing it from? Number one, Tur. Number two, Aruch. Who's Aruch? No, that's what I want to tell you. It's the Isser V'Heter HaAruch. The Isser V'Heter is called Isser V'Heter HaAruch, and it's always referenced here as Aruch. So it's Aruch Klal Lamed, the Isser V'Heter. Okay? Now, if you'll take a look, for example, on page, keep this page, but also move to page Ayin Dalet. Okay? I'll show you something interesting. There's a Ramah here, right? No, Golas is Cholov Bishkedim, almond milk they used to make in those days, and he finishes, and then afterwards it says in small parentheses, what does it say? Dalad Ayin. What's Dalad Ayin mean? Das Atzmoy. This is the Ramah's own opinion. So obviously the Ramah didn't write this. He didn't write Das Atzmi. The publishers decided to publish You should know there's no source for this Ramah. He made it up. He's allowed to. He's a big posik. I am also allowed to, but you don't have to accept what I say. Ramah makes up stuff. We accept what he says because he knows what he's talking about. Okay, let's go back to page Ayin. All right. On the right side is a sefer called Sifsei Koyin, which is the Shach, also known as the Shach. That's a pirush. Okay. Every time you have to learn what letters reference to who and what. On the left side is a sefer called Turei Zov. It's interesting that the more, Litvaks and Chabad, we call it Taz. The Chassidish Olam calls it Tirei Zuhuv. They're going to call the Taz by Turei Zov. His name was David. Tirei Zuhuv. I don't know why. That's what they say. But we say Shach and Taz, right? Shach and Taz. That's the Shach and the Taz, the famous Shach and Taz, who are the first and foremost Mefarshim on the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, we're going to go through everybody. On the bottom, this Biur Hagra, which is from the Vilna Gaon. He made his notes on the Shulchan Aruch. Under that is Chidush Rabbi Kiva. That's Rabbi Kiva Eger. This is Rabbi Kiva Eger's notes on Shulchan Aruch. The original Shulchan Aruch obviously was not printed with Rabbi Kiva Eger's notes. Later on his own Shulchan Aruch, he wrote notes. Somebody found it and decided to publish a new Shulchan Aruch and make money with Rabbi Kiva Eger. And eventually all the Shulchan Aruchs incorporated it. Actually, one of those Svarim with Rabbi Kiva Eger's notes that are certainly published is in the Rebbe's library. Someone bought it and gave it to the Frierdiker Rebbe as a matana. It was, or it could be still is, even on display. Literally the Rabbi Kiva Eger's Shulchan Aruch with his notes. It's there. The stuff that was published there. Under that is the Bayit Heitiv. There's a Bayit Heitiv in Yeridei and Bayit Heitiv in other Chalakim are a different person. The Bayit Heitiv is a kitzur of Shach and Taz. Okay, that's what it is. Many Rabbanim who want to chazer, they don't want to learn over the Shach and Taz Barichas, they just learn with Bayit Heitiv. On occasion, he also, throws in his 2 cents. Kasha, teretz. Under that is a sefer called
they give a parish, or they give their opinion.
Everything and anything. Pischei Tshuva, that is someone who was melakit Tshuvas up to his day that are relevant to the stories mentioned in Shulchan Aruch. It's called Pischei Tshuva. Okay. Before we go to the next page, let's go on the little column over here. You see Be'er HaGoyla on top? You ever see? Be'er HaGoyla is the sources of the Mechaber and the Ramah. So the first by the Mechaber is a little Rashi Aleph. That's Aleph for the Be'er HaGoyla. Where's the Mechaber getting it from, other than the Tur? It's a Braisa and Chulun Daf Kuf Tesvav, you see? On rare occasions, he also throws in his comments in addition to just sources. Under that is a sefer called Gilyon Maharsha that was written by Rabbi Shlomo Eger, son of the Rabbi Kiva Eger. What he does really is cross-referencing. He'll usually bring from another place, ask a kasha, teretz, short little notes. Okay, Gilyon Maharsha. Under that, you see Imrei Bina. You see that? The Imrei Bina is a modern sefer. I think it was written before the war. It's basically a biur in Shach and Taz, or like a lot of times, the Shach and Taz will quote something from the Torah and the Beis Yosef. Now, if you're not sitting near a Torah and a Beis Yosef, and you don't have the ability to go look up a Torah Beis Yosef, or you don't have Eitzar HaChochmeh, so he did it for you. Okay, he brings the sources of the Torah and the Beis Yosef, what they're referencing. Sometimes he just explains. So, by the way, you have to know Shach and Taz. You don't need to learn Imrei Bina, but sometimes, in order to understand Shach and Taz, you're going to learn the Imrei Bina if you want. You can come to me or Rabbi Gans, because we also learned the Imrei Bina already and tell you what it says. But don't be embarrassed to look at the Imrei Bina if you don't know what's flying, because it'll hopefully help you fly, okay? Right. Turn the page for a second, we'll go back in a minute. You see, under the Be'er HaGoyla on the next page is a sefer called, you see what it's called? Dogul Mervava, Husoch Vayehi, yeah? Dogul Mervava was written by who? Who knows? Gotcha. The Noida Behuda. This was his notes on his Shulchan Aruch. And the sefer that they compiled is called Noida Behuda. I'm sorry, Dogol Mervava, sorry. His sefer, his Tshuva sefer is called Noida Behuda. Go back to page Ayin Aleph. You'll notice on the page Ayin Aleph, under the Pischei Tshuva, there's a sefer called Mishbet Zesov and Siv Sedas. You see that? It's written by the same guy. It's called the Pri Megadim. He wrote a sefer on the Shach and a sefer on the Taz. The one on the Shach is called Siv Sedas. The one on the Taz is called Mishbet Zohav. In the old Shulchan Aruch, it's in the back, and you need a magnifying glass to actually go learn it. Baruch Hashem, now they rewrote it. The Pri Megadim is like, there's a famous saying, I forgot from who, Poskim in Shmaya Nofal, Halacha ke Pri Megadim. A note fell down from heaven. The Mittler Rebbe wrote the Piskei from the Mittler Rebbe and Shkita. It's a short of the Pri Megadim's Piskei Halacha. He is the guy. However, he's very difficult to learn. He's very, very short and very unclear. There are many svarim that were written just to explain Pri Megadim. Yeshiva has a whole bunch of them. Different ones. This, Megadim Chadashim, we'll learn soon about the Pri Odor, but that's the Pri Megadim. So if you ever want to reference a Pri Megadim, you have to say where it is. The Pri Megadim writes where? Which one of the two books, right? And Hilchos Shabbos, he wrote also Mishbet Zezav and the Taz, and the Magen Avraham, it's called Eishel Avraham. That's what the Pri Megadim Sefer on the Magen Avraham. There's another Sefer called Eishel Avraham from a different person, the Buchache. So whenever you want to quote him, you have to say the Kosav Eishel Avraham la Rav Tzadik mi Buchach, because not to confuse with the Eishel Avraham, meaning the Pri Megadim. Correct? Somehow there's something with the Reb Shalom Shachner, that Tzemach Tzedek's father, Zivik Sheni, Pri Megadim, this stuff going on. I don't know exactly. Something with the Pri Megadim with the Zivik Sheni, Reb Shalom Shachner. Came a brother-in-law to Pri Megadim, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, okay. Now, if you ever reference these two Sfarim and you write, I always mention this, someone made a comment that it sounds funny that I say it, but you can't ever write the Kosav HaMishpat Zov, because you sound like an Amoritz. It's not the Mishpat Zov, it's the Pri Megadim. And then you reference, where does the Pri Megadim write it? The Mishpat Zov, Sifkotten, whatever. Every Shach and Taz have a Sifkotten. It's not referenced in the Shach and Taz. Which Sif Sedas is going to talk about Shach Aleph? Sif Sedas Aleph. Every single one has a reference. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dal, every single one. So that's why it's not referenced in the book. Okay?
So does it skip ICS?
No. I mean, maybe, but usually almost never. Okay? Under that, you have a goyes for artists. These are the modern guys that find mistakes.
The Pri Megadim also writes his own thing, or
No, it's his own thing. It's a period. It's kashas, terutzim, new gedarim, new things, whatever. Very difficult to learn. I didn't tell you what you have to learn yet. It sounds like overwhelming. You don't have to learn everything here. Okay. So don't get scared yet. Give it a few minutes. All right. Under that is a goyes for artists. What's a goyes for artists? You know the new gemaras that they print, and they have all these notes that this is a mistake and that's a mistake. That's what Agoyes V'Oris here. It's like Bachar come over to me. What do you mean? There's a stira here in the Bishop. Look at the Agoyes V'Oris. He asks your kasha. Like, why are you coming to me? You can't be scared to look around on the book. If you have a problem in something and there's a little letter there, find the letter and look what he writes. If you don't know what it says, it means come and ask. Even if a Pri Megadim is not on the list, you're allowed to peek in a Pri Megadim to see the pshat. You're allowed to. I peeked and I still don't know. Okay. Now the next one is on everything, wherever they decided, the new publishers, they're busy matching different prints and mistakes and everything. Okay. Then you have Tziyunim V'Hagoyes Al Pri Megadim. There's a lot of Sfarim originals that wrote on the Pri Megadim. Mishmeres Sholem and others. So they incorporated, Meged Shemayim, different ones, and they bring you these notes on the Pri Megadim. Okay, it's notes on the Pri Megadim. All right. Now, we pretty much covered everything that's on this page. If you go to the back of the Shulchan Aruch, after the Shulchan Aruch, there's a few interesting, important Sfarim. One of them you see is called Chavis Das. Right at the end of the Shulchan Aruch. You see Chavis Das? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Well, if you say no, start saying yes. Look. And it'll be yes. Chavis Das was written by a big rabbi called Rabbeinu Yankiv Milisa. Okay? He wrote a sefer on Yeridea called Chavis Das. He wrote a sefer on Erechaim called Mekoyer Baruch, I think. He wrote a sefer on Chesed Mishpat known as the Nesivis, who argues with the Ketzos. On the Nesivis, they argue a lot. So this is his sefer. He has what?
Two Nesivis?
What do you mean two Nesivis? He's the Nesivis.
Oh, he's
the same guy. Yeah. So he has Biurim and he has Kedushim. You see, one is Barichas and one is Bekitzer. It's like in a real Smicha place where you learn for 5 years. You learn every Chavis Das. Okay. While we're on the subject, there's another major pasuk that I forgot to mention, which I believe, at the end of the day, all lumdus in Yeridea comes from him. Believe it or not. That's my opinion. It's always. The Chavis Das quotes him all the time. It's the Kresi Uplesi. You ever heard of who he is? You know who he is? Who's the Kresi Uplesi? The Bienis and Eibshitz. What's his sefer on Chesed Mishpat called? Urim v'Tumim. It's the same thing. The Urim and the Tumim is called Kresi Uplesi. Kresi Uplesi is 2 books, one Barichas and one Bekitzer. It's the sefer on Yeridea that he wrote. And he's quoted a lot. And he's in all the pilpulim, the Chavis Das. Anytime he has a real pilpul and chidushim, it's always coming from a place. Okay, that's the Chavis Das. Under it you have Imrei Baruch, which are Meforshim. Then afterwards you have something called Yalkut Meforshim. You see, after the Chavis Das. What's a sefer called Yalkut Meforshim? So this is these guys who published this Shulchan Aruch had a big problem. If you take an old Shulchan Aruch, the old prints, which almost don't exist, right? You'll notice there's so many more little mefarshim and small little words on the page. Tzvila Tzaddik, Imrei Baruch, pieces of the Pri Chodesh, tons of different people. They cut it all out to put Pri Megadims on the same page, right? Because the Pri Megadim was in the back, to redo the Shulchan Aruch. So what do we do with all those guys that were on the page? They took them all and made a new book in the back called Yalkut Mefarshim. So every little bit that's here, Pri Chodesh, Tosfos Shabbos, whatever, Levushay Srod, Beis Meir, Tzvila Tzaddik, Imrei Baruch, all these guys used to be published, right, on the page of the old Shulchan Aruch, literally. Okay, if you find one, you're probably not going to find one in the yeshiva. But if you find an old Shulchan Aruch, you open up to any page, and you're going to find a lot of these mefarshim there. I definitely missed a lot of people that you're going to come across, and as we move along during the shiurim, I will mention them. But I want to point out also, whenever the Pri Megadim writes Reish Beis with abbreviation, it's not Rabbeinu Baruch, which sometimes Rabbeinu Baruch, who wrote the Sefer HaTruma, by the way, he wrote Sefer HaTruma. It means the Rav. Who's the Rav? No, the Ramah. Divrei Harav Iker is the Ramah. Okay? Tes Vov with two abbreviations, which is not in this one, but in Tarubis you'll come across. Hey Tes Vov means Hatur v'Hamachaber. Hatur v'Hamachaber. That's what Hey Tes Vov means. Okay. All right. Here's what's going to happen now. What are you responsible for at the end of the day, after everything that we said and done? All right. The general rule is the quota. I'm going to make a calendar, which I didn't make yet, and I'm going to print all the Madam McClamis paper today without a calendar. I'm going to make that later because I didn't do it yet. I want to do it after Tishrei, but there'll be Shilos to Chazor, etc. But this is what you're responsible for. The general quota is going to be based on 2 amudim of Shulchan Aruch a day. Okay, everyone, open to Shulchan Aruch, page Ayin. Okay. If you have this book. And for those who are using other books, you're going to have to figure out what the quota comes from. Okay, the quota is based on this Shulchan Aruch, and the list of Madam McClamis is going to be the Amudim of the Shulchan Aruch. So, for example, if you're starting today you have to learn page Ayin and page Ayin Beis. I didn't say that. Give me a second. Today you have to learn page Ayin and page Ayin Beis, which is really a little more because Sif Gimel ends on the next page, right? It's an average. Now, it doesn't only have to be 2 Amudim a day. Some days, it's average 2 amudim a day, because if it's easy, like page Ayin is a very easy page, right? So we at least learn 3. It's like this simon page Ayin has how many pages? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8.5 pages. How many days is that? 2, 4, 6, 8. It's basically a week, 5 days. So this simon should take you a week, because it's an average of 2 amudim a day. Some days you can only do 1, because it's harder, but some days you could do a little more. Now, what does that mean? Just to read the Mechaber de Ramah? No. Every Amud includes everything that comes with it. So what's first and foremost that comes with the Shulchan Aruch? The Tur. So you have to start off with the Tur anyways. You got to learn the Tur. In Basar Becholov, you're supposed to learn the Tur and the Beis Yosef. In Taruvis, we're going to cut out Beis Yosef. And in Melicha, we're going to cut out Beis Yosef. But in Basar Becholov, we're supposed to. However, if you find that the Beis Yosef is too difficult for you because it's bogging you down, you shouldn't be spending too much time on Beis Yosef. If there's a kasha or you got stuck in the Beis Yosef, you're not supposed to, if you see I'm busy, Rabbi Gantz is busy, your friend is busy, move on. The Beis Yosef, we're not being tested on Beis Yosef. We have to learn the Beis Yosef to know what's flying. If it's making you more problems, cut it out. Okay? Now, ideally, and I always get shot in the foot by saying this, ideally, you should be learning the whole Torah first quickly. But that's only if you're able to do it in 15 minutes. If you could learn the whole Torah, every simon by simon, in 15 minutes, do it. If it takes you more, that's not for you, the Mahalach HaDerech. If I were learning, I would rattle off the whole Torah without even knowing what's flying. In 15 minutes, I get a picture of what the simon is going to be talking about, right? Like you have an introduction to a class, a shiur. We're going to be learning about, okay? That's what you're doing. But if for many Bachrim, it's difficult. So you learn a Sif by Sif. You do Torah, Sif Aleph with the Beis Yosef, and then you go to Shulchan Aruch. So basically, you have to pace yourself for what you're learning in Torah Beis Yosef based on what you're learning here. And the average every day is 2 amudim. Today, hopefully, you can learn a little more. Plus, Mechaber Ramah, pay attention. Shach and Taz, forgot about one major sefer. Shach and Taz, yeah? And the Mefarshim that I'm going to give you on the list. It's going to be a list of Mefarshim. It's going to be hand-picked of people on this page, yeah? Or Chavaz Das in the back, yeah? That are going to be handpicked or were handpicked by me, Pri Megadims, Gilim Mashos, that you just have to learn. Now you might claim to me, why did I pick this one and not the other one? There are 2 answers I can give you. One is trust me. The second one is don't trust me. Learn them all and come argue. I don't have a problem with that. You can always learn more and come and argue with me. And if you'll win, I'll add probably, not take off. Because you're probably going to say that there are more that are important. Okay? Now, I forgot one major sefer. Turn the page to page Ayin Beis. Right under the Shach, there's a sefer called, what does it say? Anyone see it? Nekudos HaKesef. Who wrote that? The Shach. When the Shach wrote his sefer, he didn't see the Taz. The Taz didn't see the Shach. That's why sometimes they both actually write the same thing. They didn't see each other. After it was published, the Shach sees stuff in the Taz. He's like, oh my God, he's absolutely wrong. Or, oh my gosh, I should have written about that too. Even if he's right, but I have what to add, right? So he made a new sefer. It's called the Kudas HaKesef, that it's basically on the Taz. It's his rebuttal to the Taz. That's what the Kudas HaKesef is. So if you want to know the real opinion of the Shach, you have to learn Shach Taz plus. As a rule, you have to learn all the Kudas HaKesefs unless stated on the paper that you could skip. Like in this Siman, you could skip one or two. But generally speaking, you have to learn all the Kudas HaKesefs. Who published the Sefer Nekudas HaKesef? The Shach's son. Okay? That's why in it, he also put his own comments on his father, on the Shach. Whenever there's a reference in the Nekudas HaKesef, on the Shach, it's not the Shach himself, it's the son of the Shach. And it usually says Hagoh, so you know that it's the son of the Shach. In fact, in the Hakdama to Nekudas HaKesef, he writes that if you think the Shach, my father, and the Taz really hated each other, they didn't. They once stayed home. The Shach stayed in the Taz's house for 3 days, and before he left, he kissed him on the forehead. He writes that he kissed him. Now, actually, after the Nekudas HaKesef was written, the Taz saw it. Hey, that's not good, right? So he wrote a rebuttal. That rebuttal used to be printed on this page, but now it's printed in the Yalkut Mefarshim. It's not many places, but I'm going to show you one of the places. Open the page to Siman Tzadik Daled in the Yalkut Mefarshim. I'm going to get you the page. It's page Lamed Beis. No, that's not yet. Page Lamed Dalet. Okay. Page Lamed Dalet, or Lamed Hey actually, the first few lines after Lamed Hey on top, it says, Daf Achrein Letaz. Yeah? Daf Achrein is the last page, meaning the Taz called it the last page, my final rebuttal on the Shach. But the Shach saw that too. And he wrote a sefer called Kuntris Achrein. The next one is Kuntris Achrein. I'm just going to show you what it says. Look, read in the beginning. First, why? Herich, no, page Lamed Hey. Yossi, page Lamed Hey. You're looking at Lamed Hey. First column. First column. Yeah, he didn't. When he wrote the Shach, he didn't see. Later, he saw it. They saw each other. So look what it says. Herich lataretz mashik sheisi b'shach l'va. V'kol mi sheyesh le'rak moyach b'kot kodoi. Anyone who has a brain. Yire shekosiv dvarim she'ein hadas sevalton. He writes things. Now look, go skip to the next column at the end. Look what he writes. He writes like this. Gam, 5 lines from the end. Gam mashakosav. Top of the column. Top of the second column. Yossi. Top of the second column. 5th line. Gam mashakosav. Yihiloi asher loi. Okay. And then he continues. Adarabbe, skip a line. B'divrei kol Poskim mashma, like ma arich b'zeh de muftachani. B'misha yikra be'ein sichloi hazach. If you read this objectively, l'shem shamayim. Yire echi tiach alai. He accused me of dvorim harbe shaloi kedas. Ki kol dvorov ein bohem mamish. And now I'm going to show you something cute. Okay. Everyone turn on the first column on page Lamed Hey. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines from the bottom. Shura hamascheles chudu. First column, you all see you're on the second column. First column on Lamed Hey. 9 lines from the bottom. The line starts with chulu. Do you all see that? Yeah? Okay, there's a famous joke. A guy came to yeshiva once and he said, I just finished the whole Sichta Shabbos. It's just one thing I don't know. What's the Rosh Tevis of Reish Hey Reish? And Reish Hey Yud. He doesn't know what Rosh Hashanah is or Rosh Hashanah, but I know the whole Masechta Shabbos. Everyone laughs, right? That joke comes from a Beis Yosef right here. Okay, I'm going to read it with you. Koirei ani alov. I'm referring to the Taz. Commissioner Kosev Beis Yosef b'Tshuva, as the Beis Yosef writes, one of his Tshuva sefer is called Avakas Roichel, by the way. Daf Nun Ches Sof Amud Beis. Allahu Shoyel, this guy that wrote a question, Shedoime, he convinced himself, Kimisha Shoyne Kol Mesichta Eidevin. He thought he learned the whole Mesichta Eidevin. And the Shoyel Achakach, and he asks a question in yeshiva, Im Koirin Movoi Oy Mochoi. He didn't know how you read the word. Mavoi oy mochi. The idea of the joke that you read the whole Masechta, but you don't know the basics, really wasn't created in some comedy skit. It was actually comes from Beis Yosef. The Mechaber actually wrote that joke about somebody. So the Shach continues. So too the Taz, he says, you're doing the same thing. You think you know the whole sugya, and really you don't. Just because the Shach wrote like that doesn't mean that we accept him, everything that he writes. I'm just showing you, okay. So basically, to reiterate what your job is, you start with the Tur. You learn the Beis Yosef if you're able to. Then you go to the Mechaber and the Ramah. But the pace is, what? No. No Darkei Moshe. Okay. No Bach. Unless I tell you, you have to. But some of them are on the list. Some of the Bachs are referenced in the Shach and Taz. Look it up. But no. As a rule, we only learn Mechaber, Tur, Beis Yosef, if you're able to, Mechaber Amah Shachtaz, which includes Nekudas HaKesef, and the list. That's what you need to learn. There's going to be a list. I'm going to print the list and give it out later and put it in the afternoon on this table here. You'll take the list. Now, today is Monday, so we should try to finish Siman Pei Zayin. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, by next Monday, we should be finished Pei Zayin. It's not easy. It's a new kind of limud. You're going to have to get used to it. Some of you guys are going to be a little bit jealous of some of your friends who are moving. Okay, some of you, everything I'm saying is true, right? Some of you guys are going to get discouraged. You're going to want to quit because you feel you're having a hard time. Correct? But I can attest to you, and I'm not going to say names, that there are Bachrim who really, really struggled in the beginning and turned out that they knew it backwards and forwards with all the details. And they're not big Geoinim and Talmidei Chachamim today. Okay? Some of them even forgot what they learned. But at the time, they knew it backwards and forwards with all the details. They just had to put the effort in. Am I saying something correct here? Yes or no? Yes. Okay? I am telling you this from experience. All your kvetcherai that's going to come soon happens all the time. But when you're done and you look back, you're going to thank me. I'm telling you. But you cannot waste time. You cannot sleep in. There's no chachma. You take off a day, you're going to fall behind. You got every kol yoyma v'yoyma oved avidite. Every single day has its job and has its avodah. And you will notice, by the way, the days of the quota that I gave you too little to learn are the days you're going to waste time. The days that I crammed in, I overflowed you with work, you're going to spend it wisely. That's the way it works. You got to overwhelm, not completely overwhelm, obviously. You got to overwhelm the bucket a little bit, and that puts you in the mode of actually learning the way you're supposed to learn. Understood? Any questions? All right. Listen, guys. I wish you a lot of atzlocha rabba mufloga in all the inyonim and the limud. You got to knock away. And the mitzvah after Pesach, we're going to pick up where we left off, and those who are coming after Yontif, so maybe some guys are, they'll have to catch up on Siman Pei Zayin. We'll start also the Latin part of the Seder, Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Shabbos. After Pesach, did I say Pesach? Oh, my head's already at Pesach. After Tishrei, sorry. After Simchas Torah, that's going to be the plan.
When's the first test?
Around Chav Dalet Tevis time. Yeah. The whole Basa B'Cholev. Now, there's different mahalchim. On my paper, on the calendar, it's going to say to learn the Siman with Chazorah. There are certain Bachrim that feel they need to have Chazorah every time. When I learned it, I didn't look back. Because you don't really understand anything you're learning until you finish the whole Basa B'Cholev. There's going to be so many references of things that are swimming until you finally learn it. Let me give you a few eights here. Kids, 2 more minutes. When you learn now, everything, those who know music, and I don't, but that's what they tell me, you look at every CD, there's a mixer. What's a mixer? All the instruments are done on separate tracks, and then there's a guy that mixes it all. The goal is here that everything should be mixed. You should have one din, one case, and you should be able to incorporate all the din. It's very difficult to do. So at this point, when you're learning everything on a separate track. It doesn't have to intertwine. I'm going to in Shiur try to intertwine it, or when you talk to me, I'm going to make you think that it's supposed to be intertwined, but really I'm bluffing you. I know that it's not intertwined by you. I know when you come and ask me and I say, what do you mean, you just learned this yesterday? And you're going to go, oh, I forgot. I know. I'm just playing with you. You're meant to forget. It's not pshat, you know. How shouldn't you forget? You're human. We all forget. You have to chazer and chazer. So everything is on a separate track now. Until you finish the whole Basa B'Cholev, that's when it starts to get molded and welded together. The shiurim are going to do that. That's what I said way back in the beginning, that eventually when you chazer over a shiur, you should be able to come and tell me you said nothing. The only reason why I gave you the shiur is because I'm older, so I did it already. It's the only reason. If I have a chiddush, I have a little chiddush. I don't waste my time usually on that, even if I do. So study and learn now as everything is on its separate track. And you're going to forget. You're not going to know what it says yesterday. And I believe even if you chazer. But some people feel they need to chazer every simon. So chazer every simon. When you finish and then you chazer, it's a different learning. You're going to see when you're going to learn this over after you finish Basa B'Cholev, it's a different Siman Pei Zayin. It's completely different. It's just a different Havana. Now you're learning like you're like in the dark because you don't understand the Yonim well enough. But in Mitzvah Shem, you will. How do I know you will? Because I'm doing this for many, many years. I'm serious. And we have a Bachar who learned it already, and he can attest to that. Not that I'm here for many years. That you guys will Mitzvah Shem will know it, and you'll do well, and you'll learn. Understood? Hatzlacha Rabba. I wish you guys a lot of luck. You're going to need the brachas.
So, let's go. Yeah, I'm ready.